They say common sense isn't actually that common, and if you need proof, you've come to the right place. Today, we're looking at 10 pieces of hard evidence that support the theory that some people are just missing the survival gene. We are diving into the stories of individuals who faced everyday problems and chose the one specific solution that resulted in their own spectacular and profoundly avoidable demise. This isn't just a list of accidents, it's a catalog of moments where the human brain simply short-circuited in the face of logic. Consider this script a crucial public service announcement on how not to become a local legend for all the wrong reasons. Let's explore the world of fatal glitches in human logic. Number 1. The toxic smartphone tragedy. A lost phone is a modern-day headache, the kind of tragedy that involves lost photos and expensive replacement fees. But for one family in China, it turned into a multi-generational catastrophe that defied all reason. It started when a man accidentally dropped his brand-new smartphone into a pit toilet, a deep, open-air septic tank. Instead of mourning the loss of the device and walking away, he made the fateful decision to climb into the pit to retrieve it. He was almost immediately overcome by the concentrated noxious fumes, including hydrogen sulfide and ammonia, which act as a silent, invisible killer. Seeing her son in immediate peril, his mother didn't hesitate. She jumped into the pit to rescue him, only to be knocked unconscious by the gas within seconds. This horrifying chain reaction didn't stop there. Seeing both of them down, his father jumped in, then his wife. Then, as the panic spread to the neighborhood, 2 helpful neighbors also descended into the toxic abyss, one after another. In total, 6 people perished in a suffocating, frantic effort to retrieve a single electronic device. In a final, bitter twist of irony, the phone, the catalyst for this entire family's destruction, was never even recovered from the sludge. Number 2. The human circuit breaker. We've all been pushed to the brink of insanity by the relentless, high-pitched chirping of a smoke detector with a low battery. Usually, the solution is a $5 battery and a stepladder. However, for one college student, that sound was a declaration of war that required a permanent solution. He decided that the best way to stop the noise wasn't to fix the device, but to kill the power at the source. Without turning off the main breaker, he reached up and grabbed the 2 live wires hanging from the ceiling with his bare hands, intending to rip them out. The results were instantaneous and illuminating. As he was being introduced to the raw, unbridled power of the national electrical grid, his roommate heard the commotion and ran into the room. In a panic, and showing a similar lack of understanding regarding physics, the roommate grabbed his friend's shoulders to pull him away. This effectively turned both young men into a single, massive human conductor, allowing the current to flow through both of them. Both students were fatally enlightened by the experience. The only success in this entire tragic story was that the annoying beeping finally stopped, though at a cost that no one in their right mind would ever pay. Number 3. The 50-hour digital quest. There is a very fine line between a dedicated hobby and a fatal obsession, and in the world of high-stakes gaming, that line is often made of caffeine and adrenaline. A gamer in South Korea obliterated that line when he sat down at an internet cafe to play an online RPG for 50 hours straight. This wasn't a casual session, it was a marathon of obsession. He ignored every single biological red flag, foregoing food, water, and the basic human necessity of sleep. He was on an epic quest for virtual glory, trading his real-world health bar for a digital experience bar. As the hours turned into days, his body began to fail. Deep vein thrombosis and extreme exhaustion began to set in, but the lure of the next level kept him glued to the screen. While he may have reached the highest level in the game and acquired legendary loot that made him a god in the digital realm, his biological hardware simply couldn't handle the overclocking. He suffered a massive, fatal cardiac arrest right at his keyboard, surrounded by the glow of the monitor. He learned the hardest way possible that in the game of life there are no respawns, no extra lives, and the final game over is terrifyingly permanent and impossible to pause. Number 4. Customer service via karma. Slow service at a drive-thru is a universal frustration that has tested the patience of the best of us. But for one man in Britain, a delayed burger was an injustice that demanded an immediate, furious, and face-to-face confrontation. In a blind rage, he flung his car door open and stormed toward the service window to berate the teenage staff about the speed of their kitchen. However, in his hurry to deliver his verbal assault, he overlooked one small mechanical detail. He had left the car in drive instead of park. As he stood between his open door and the brick wall of the restaurant, delivering a passionate, finger-wagging speech on the failures of modern fast food management, his vehicle began to roll forward. The car door acted like a giant mechanical pincer, pinning him against the building with cold, relentless precision. The staff watched in horror as the very man screaming at them was slowly crushed by his own transportation.
He wasn't taken out by a disgruntled employee or a rival customer, but by his own four-door sedan, which decided to deliver its own brand of instant, karmic service while he was mid-insult. Number 5. The sausage-eating martyr. Competitive eating is a sport defined by sheer willpower, a lack of a gag reflex, and a series of very questionable life choices. During a local fair sausage-eating contest, one contestant was determined to prove his absolute dominance over the world of processed meats. He was a machine, powering through link after link, eventually reaching his 43rd sausage. The crowd was cheering, the timer was ticking, and glory was within his reach. But then, a single piece of meat became lodged in his throat, and the glitch in his survival instinct became apparent. Instead of signaling for help or slowing down, he tried to push through the obstruction with even more food. Amid the stunned silence that followed as he collapsed, the atmosphere shifted from festive excitement to a somber tragedy. He died a champion of the grill, a true martyr to the cause of gluttony and local fame. While his name went into the record books for the highest score of the day, the sausages ultimately won the war. His legacy remains a bizarre and sad story about the physical limits of the human esophagus and the extreme dangers of taking all you can eat as a personal challenge from the universe.
Number 6. The porcelain explosion. When faced with a stubborn, blocked toilet, most people reach for a plunger, a snake, or perhaps some heavy-duty chemical cleaner. One man, however, decided that these traditional methods were for the weak. He reasoned that a chemical clog required a chemical solution, so he poured a gallon of gasoline into the bowl. To ensure the reaction took place, he then dropped a lit match into the porcelain throne. He believed that a controlled, catastrophic fuel-air explosion was the most efficient way to clear a simple clog. Technically, the plan was a success. The clog was absolutely vaporized. Unfortunately, so was the rest of the bathroom. The gasoline vapors had expanded into the pipes in the small room, and when the match hit, the resulting blast turned the toilet into a ceramic grenade. The man was launched on a one-way trip through what used to be his bathroom ceiling, followed closely by the remnants of his plumbing. It serves as a powerful, explosive reminder that fire and high-octane fuel are rarely the correct tools for solving indoor plumbing issues, no matter how frustrated you might be. Number 7. The lawn chair aviator. Larry Walters became a global legend when he decided to fulfill his lifelong dream of flight, not with a pilot's license, but with a standard Sears lawn chair and 42 large weather balloons. He filled the balloons with helium, tied himself to the chair, and armed himself with a pellet gun and a CB radio. Amazingly, the invention worked. Too well. He shot into the sky like a rocket, reaching an altitude of over 11,000 feet, where he drifted directly into the approach paths of major commercial airliners at LAX. The glitch in his plan was the return journey. Larry had planned to shoot the balloons one by one to descend slowly. However, as he reached the thin, freezing air of the upper atmosphere, he became too cold to aim properly. When he finally managed to pop a few balloons, the chair tilted violently, and because he hadn't thought to use a safety harness, Larry slid right out of his seat. He discovered very quickly that the laws of gravity are significantly less forgiving than the rules of amateur aviation. He went up as an internet pioneer of the 80s and came down as a tragic cautionary tale about the importance of engineering and, more importantly, a seatbelt. Number 8. The 2,000-pound lesson. In the wild, unforgiving plains of Wyoming, a hunter decided to test his primitive skills against a massive 2,000-pound American bison. Most hunters would use a high-powered rifle from a safe distance, but this individual wanted the authentic experience. His weapon of choice was a simple bow and arrow. His distance was a mere 20 yards, well within the charging range of one of the most powerful land mammals on Earth. He managed to land a shot, but the arrow did little more than annoy the beast. The bison didn't fall. It didn't even flinch. Instead, the arrow acted as a start button for a very angry, very fast, one-ton furry locomotive. The bison closed the 20-yard gap in a matter of heartbeats. The hunter's bow was useless as the animal proceeded to give him a very personal, hands-on, and ultimately final lecture on the reality of the food chain. It was a stark reminder that nature doesn't care about your ego or your desire for a fair hunt. When you poke a tank with a toothpick, the tank is going to win every single time. Number 9. Clout versus the ocean. In the age of social media and the gram, some people are willing to risk everything for a photo that will be forgotten in 24 hours. During a massive coastal storm characterized by sneaker waves, one man ignored every single warning sign, police barrier, and basic survival instinct to get a close-up photo of a giant wave crashing against a stone pier. He wanted the perfect, dramatic shot for his followers. He got the shot. It was likely a breathtaking masterpiece of nature's power. However, the ocean wasn't looking for a photo shoot. Seconds after his camera shutter clicked, a second follow-up wave, even larger and angrier than the first, swept over the pier.
It claimed him, his expensive camera gear, and his final, unposted masterpiece, pulling them all into the churning, freezing Atlantic. His body was never found, leaving behind only a story about the ultimate price of digital clout. It served as a final, watery proof that the laws of nature are not subject to your follower count or your desire for a viral aesthetic. Number 10. The vending machine's revenge. We've all felt that surge of white-hot rage when a vending machine steals our last dollar and leaves our snack hanging by a thread. But while most of us settle for a firm kick or a muttered curse, one man in Washington decided to escalate the situation into a full-scale demolition project. He constructed a pipe bomb, placed it in the dispensing slot, and retreated behind a thin wooden pillar, waiting to liberate his stolen soda. The plan was technically a success. The machine exploded with a roar that shattered nearby windows. However, as the man stepped out from behind his cover to claim his fizzy prize, the laws of physics made their final move. The 300-pound heavy steel door of the machine, which had been blown off its hinges by the blast, was just completing its brief arc through the air. It returned to Earth directly on top of him, flattening him instantly. The machine got the last laugh, the soda remained unconsumed in the wreckage, and the man became a permanent entry in the annals of spectacularly poor decision-making. Common sense might be a gift, but it's clearly one that hasn't been given to everyone in equal measure. From lawn chair flights that ignore the atmosphere to exploding toilets that ignore the basics of chemistry, these 10 stories prove that the human brain is capable of some truly disastrous glitches. We've shared these 10 legends of bad logic, but now it's your turn to contribute to the archive. Does your town have a local legend about a spectacularly dumb exit? Maybe someone tried to pet a bear or jump off a roof with an umbrella? Tell us the full story in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to see just how many ways humans can outsmart their own survival instincts. If you found these stories as mind-blowing as a pipe-bombed vending machine, show the algorithm some love, hit that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into human history and folly. Stay safe, stay smart, and we'll see you in the next one.